Hello and welcome to Outside Xbox, where you're watching Show of the Week. I'm Mike.
And I'm Jane. Hi. This week I checked in with the new Tekken 7, to see whether the series has gotten any more serious. Ah!
Hilfe! Ein komischer Oktopus-Typ ist hinter mir her!
No.
That seemed pretty awkward.
Yeah.
And speaking of war,
What?
Orc War, Jane. Let me tell you about Middle-earth Shadow of War, which contains more orcs and war than you can shake Gandalf's walking stick at. Careful with that, by the way, some magic might come out. In this sequel to sleeper hit Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor, you once again play as a ranger called Talion, who has the soul of legendary elf lord Celebrimbor living inside him, which must be sort of embarrassing when Talion needs to pop to the bathroom. Maybe he just goes with his eyes shut. Shadow of Mordor's crowning achievement was the Nemesis system, which ensured that enemies you met and fought remembered you, creating unique miniature narratives within the larger story.
You know nothing of suffering. Well, I can show you.
Shadow of War increases the scope of the Nemesis system hugely, applying it to your allies as well as your foes, and though orcs and subtlety don't usually go hand in hand, developer Monolith is adding much more nuance to the personalities of individual Uruk-hai.
I fought for you, bled for you, and you left me to die.
Case in point, Thrak here is grumpy and has joined Sauron's forces because he used to be in my army, got his bell rung in a previous battle, and only narrowly escaped death. I mean, tell me, is that my fault or his? I need to be able to delegate, man.
No more talk! We bring war!
It's a phenomenally complex, interconnected web of characters, and now you'll feel not only bitter towards recurring enemies, but develop genuine affection for your own cohorts. Which is bad news when they get, say, roasted alive during a fight. No, not Aslar, he was the best of us! Well, the biggest, at least. All this stuff plays out best during the fortress sieges, which will be a regular part of your quest to rid the land of the forces of Mount Doom. Each region in the game has a fortress presided over by a particularly nasty overlord and his lieutenants. And every overlord has taken his own approach to feng shui and styled his fortress based on his own peculiar kinks. This guy's big into fire, you might have noticed.
I know a thing or two about pain. And yours, it's going to burn a hole into this world.
Capture a fortress and you get to redecorate, staff it with your most trusted battle-hardened orcs and trolls, and load it up with defences for the inevitable moment when Sauron shows up at your door with an eviction order. Of course, all these clever systems and strategic options would be worth nothing without the obligatory fantastically gory melee combat. Uruk-hai, Uruk-bai more like. Okay, new contender for the nerdiest joke I've ever made right there.
And it's the sequel to Shadow of Mordor, which was both successful and good.
And a Lord of the Rings game. I mean, what are the odds?
I mean, are they not normally good?
No. In the immortal words of Boromir, one does not simply walk into a good Lord of the Rings game. Yes, you might have Tolkien's characters, but if the game itself is terrible, that matters about as much as Tom Bombadil. Who? Exactly. Here are 5 Tolkien games that should have ended up in the crack of Mount Doom. J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings Volume 1 was a 1990 SNES game with a title so long you'd used up all the screen time your parents let you have by the time you'd finished saying it. That's probably for the best, however, as this game took the vast, sprawling, densely populated fantasy world that Tolkien created and decided that the best way to represent that in a video game was to have Frodo walk around a field poking wolves in the face with a stick. And talking to characters with evocative, high fantasy names like Rod Baker. When you're not walking around in a field, you're walking around in a cave, which is a lot like a field, only darker. Man, now I can see why people get so annoyed about walking simulators. What's your favourite thing about Lord of the Rings? If you answered Gandalf's horse Shadowfax, then boy do we have the game for you. And presumably only you, because honestly, who answers Gandalf's horse Shadowfax? Shadowfax was a game in which you, as Gandalf, ride Shadowfax while flinging lightning bolts at advancing ring wraiths. That's literally it. There's no way to win either, so you just play until you are overwhelmed by Nazgul and die, which also makes this the bleakest Lord of the Rings game ever. Way worse than falling into a pit with a Balrog.
Well, that's better. You can't have a good party without a lot of hard work. Remember that.
Aragorn's quest was an attempt to create a family-friendly Lord of the Rings game by populating it with colourful cartoon versions of the characters, toning down the violence, and making it suck.
Your hobbit friends went to stock up on supplies for the journey. Ask around town. Somebody must know where the little masters were headed.
The game is presented as Samwise Gamgee telling a bedtime story to his children, presumably a bedtime story that involved a lot of him saying, "And then Aragorn fought 50 identical orcs again." Still, it probably did a great job of getting them off to sleep.
The Ring-Bearer's quest continues toward Mordor, but to the north, a great army is gathering.
Lord of the Rings War in the North was an action RPG in which 3 unfortunate sods are sent up north to sort out an entire army of orcs.
Your journey no longer lies with the ring. You must go north to face this darkness.
Oh, what? Does this mean we're not going to appear in the movies? Because what about my royalties? War in the North featured repetitive combat, a tedious story, and was more riddled with bugs than Shelob's Lair. And with 3-player co-op, you could share the entire torrid experience with 2 of your soon-to-be no longer mates. Perhaps predictably, the game debuted at a stunning 38th in the UK charts. We reckon even Nickelback could manage better than that, and they're Nickelback. The Hobbit text adventure on the ZX Spectrum was the first video game version of Bilbo Baggins' The Early Years. In it, you follow the storyline in which Bilbo Baggins discovers the One Ring and faces off against a dragon called Smaug who's intensely displeased at being woken up. It's a meeting that happens with all the drama that black text on a grey background can muster. So majestic. The Hobbit game can be knocked on the head in half an hour, considerably more quickly than it takes to read the book, and, as with all text adventures, it's extremely resistant to you demonstrating any sort of imagination at all. Hey, it was worth a shot. It would have been a real time saver.
Now it's time to see what's written in the comments and on the inside of this ring I found in the cellar. Not to be removed from the plumbing system. I think this is a washer.
That would explain why the cellar's been flooded.
In which case, let's move on quickly to the comments on this video about the angriest video game characters with less chill than a busted refrigerator.
For certain game heroes, there's always something going on to damage their calm. Maybe they've been deceived by ancient gods, stepped to by street gangs, or had their house blown up by the army. Whatever it is, they've had all they can stand and they're so flipping mad they could spit. And no, they won't calm down. Why don't you calm down?
Commenter Roger Puzzitiello has a further suggestion, saying, "Kinda surprised the Doom Marine wasn't included. The demons of hell pissed him off so much that he made it his day job to murder every single beast residing in the 9 circles.
That is a hell of a day job.
Hey, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life."
Other comments were more focused on Kaz Miller and his legendary love of hamburgers. Commenter AsSugar says, "They played us like a damn fiddle. I love some Kojima cheesy melodramatic writing."
That son of a bitch, he's always one step ahead!
They played us like a damn fiddle!
While Jarell Tolentino thinks, Miller's Maxi Buns, worst product plug ever. I'm sure right now they're the angriest people around because of this.
Oh, I can see why he's so angry all the time. This is terrible. Actually, that is true. Miller's Maxi Buns weren't happy with the episode and they're pulling their sponsorship from outsidexbox.
Oh, you could have told me this before I bought this tiara.
It's technically a diadem. Let's move on, shall we, to the comments on this video on the things you need to know about the upcoming Far Cry 5.
But yes, you play a deputy sheriff of the gender and race of your own choosing, and you're sent to Hope County with 2 colleagues to take care of business. Why that business isn't important enough to send the actual sheriff and not the deputy, who knows? Maybe there was a bank robbery going on or something.
On the topic of that clip, AJ Film NFX says, "That guy in the church tower looks pretty familiar. His face definitely rings a bell."
It just shows how deprived Hope County is. They can't even afford a clapper for their bell, so they have to get local volunteers in to help out.
Yeah, I don't think that's what's going on in that clip.
We'll have to wait until the final game to find out.
And for the first time in Far Cry 5, you won't be playing a particular hero. You'll be playing as yourself, by which we mean you'll be playing as a character you customise and not literally yourself, unless you do happen to be a deputy sheriff who's been kidnapped by a doomsday cult.
Kevin Huynh, meanwhile, thinks that having a customisable character is great because the main characters were always bland anyway. Now they can be bland and look like me.
Best of both worlds?
Lucky for Deputy Sheriff you, then, that Far Cry 5 includes a so-called Fangs for Hire system similar to the animal taming in Far Cry Primal, with which you can persuade a beast to team up with you.
On that subject, Annie Rose says, "But can the animal companions fly in the planes too? Ain't no cult messing with you and a bear in a plane while a cow hurls Molotov cocktails. I speak from experience."
Oh, me too. It's the only way to travel.
Finally this week, your comments on last week's show, which looked at the Friday the 13th game, as well as horror movie baddies that are way easier to kill in video games.
Jason can be stunned with weapons, and you can lock doors, set traps, or hide to try and avoid him, but most of the time you're aiming to just keep as far away from him as possible, lest you end up on the receiving end of one of his gruesomely inventive signature kills.
Commenter Luke S submits the following ditty. "For he's a jolly good murderer, for he's a jolly good murderer, for he's a jolly good murderer, who nobody can survive."
And so say all of us. Professional master of murder and outside Xbox commenter Agent 47 has this advice. I got a way to kill Jason Voorhees. Place him in the Mortal Kombat tournament.
That'll do it. Finally this week, commenter Robert says, "The only way to survive a horror movie is by not going down the path with the horror-sounding music."
All right, sound advice. I'm gonna head back to the studio. I'll catch you later. Ow!
That's it for Show of the Week. Thanks for watching, and next week there will not be a Show of the Week because we are going to be at Games Industry Mega Convention E3.
Yes, keep an eye on Outside Xbox for everything from the most exciting week of the year in video games. It's like video game Christmas.
That's right, so be sure to press the like button or Video Game Santa will know you've been bad, and then the only thing they'll announce at E3 is like a sequel to Ride to Hell Retribution or something.
Chilling. Yeah. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
It's the most
wonderful time of the year. Okay, lunch.
Yeah, just a sec. I need to see how this Tekken 7 story ends.
You came after me so you could give me this? No. Are you okay? Stay with me!
Yep, called it.
So romantic.